Do you want to learn how to get the most out of your handheld Beadsmith hole punch pliers? Hi, Jen Hanscom here from Jewelry Classes with Jen. Today I'm going to show you how to properly set up and use your hole punch pliers. Plus, I'll give you my secret strategy for cleaning the holes with ease. In this video, I will explain what types of components these hole punch pliers are best used for. I'll explain how to install the pin for maximum accuracy and life of the pin. I'll explain how to set up the gauge guard to help protect the surface of your jewelry component, and also how to align your pliers for accurate hole placement. Then, once you get all those basics down and you have a hole punched in your piece, as an added bonus, I'll show you my time-saving trick for cleaning the edge of the holes with ease. You're going to be amazed at how much tedious cleanup this will save you. So let's get started with what this tool can do. The Beadsmith 1.5mm hole punch has a 1.5mm diameter pin to punch holes in any soft metals like copper or sterling silver, metals up to 22 gauge thick. So it's very common that you can get copper blanks for making your jewelry, or even sterling silver blanks, and they don't always have holes, or maybe not enough holes for what you want to do with them. In this case, I've got a couple of 24 gauge copper blanks. I'd like to use these as earrings, but of course they need to have a hole in the top so that I can connect the ear wires. So that is the perfect use for the Beadsmith hole punch pliers. If you're not sure what the gauge is of the material that you want to punch a hole in, then you would use an American Standard wire gauge for non-ferrous metals in order to check that. So if you're not sure how to use a wire gauge, then you can go ahead and follow the link in my description below. I have a link to a video showing you how to use those. Now that we know we have the right tool for the job that we're trying to achieve, we want to make sure that the tool is set up to give us the best yield. So here is the pin that's going to punch the hole. This over here is your gauge guard. I'll talk about that next. What I want you to pay attention to here though is that when my tool is set up properly, you see how the deeper side of that cutting pin is closest to the jaw of the plier. And so when I go to squeeze that plier, that pin goes into the hole in the opposing side of the plier, and that hole is just the right size. And so it works out best to have that leading edge of the cut into the edge closest to the jaw of the plier, so that as you have some pressure, this softer angled edge has an easier time of making it through the hole. So let me just show you. If I look down the jaw of the plier, you can see that the short edge is here. That long edge is going to hit first. Let me try this angle here. You see how that lead edge, the first one that hits, is the one that's closest to the jaw of the plier. So now the question is, if it's not set up that way when you first get your plier, how do you fix it? Well, this is actually good knowledge to have anyway, because ultimately the pins will wear out and you'll need to replace them. So I use my chain nose pliers to undo that outer nut. It comes with 2 nuts to hold this in place so that it can really be snugged up in place. Now I'm going to loosen this other nut here just to show you. If I was totally replacing the pin, I would have 2 little nuts, and I've got the little pin. Now when you buy the pliers, they generally come with an extra pin in the package so that you can change it out when you need to. So see how I don't want to rotate the pin so that that long part is on the side. I want that longest part to be closest to the jaw of the plier. Can't stress that enough. So while I'm holding that in place, what I want to do is I want to tighten down one nut. So I get that nut in place. And what you're going to find is that when you go to put the second nut onto that threaded pin, let me just see if I can get better focus here for you. There you go. When you go to put that second nut on, a lot of times what happens, whoops, that second nut, it locks the first one in place, but in the process, it can have a tendency to shift the original when you go to tighten it. And so you do want to tighten it with your pliers because you want that super snug. So I was lucky there. I was able to tighten that and that pin didn't shift at all. And so now I've got that pin. See how it's that deepest point is leading in here first. Okay, so that takes care of getting a great yield. It's all about the angle that you put that pin. Okay, so now we want to concentrate on how to use this gauge guard here. You can see it has a little bolt, and so you can unscrew the screw. When you unscrew the screw, you can see that the bolt moved up, but then when I squeeze the pliers, with that screw loosened, the little disc that's at the base of the pin is actually touching the other side of the punch. So what we want is, you want whatever material it is that you're piercing or punching a hole out of, you want to make sure that you've got enough clearance so that you want to tighten this screw down enough so that that disc at the base of the pin will not hit your material. So see, if I set it right about there, that's going to give me the clearance I need for that 24 gauge. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten that screw down while I'm holding the pliers at that depth. And then now that the screw is tightened down, I'm going to go ahead and use my chain nose pliers to tighten up that little nut. Again, you want to be careful that you don't expand too much here or not enough. But you can see now I've got a safe distance between the base of the pin and the other side of the plier, enough to pierce through my copper, but not to have it plunge down and actually mar the surface of the copper. And so you can see there should be plenty of clearance there. So now when it comes time to actually use your hole punch, you want to use an ultra fine tip Sharpie marker to mark a dot on your metal that is approximately the size of the pin and in the exact place that you would like the hole to be. And so we're really just guessing on that size of that hole, but it's very important when you're making jewelry that your hole is centered so that when your piece is hanging, it hangs evenly. And so now, in order to get that hole to punch exactly where my mark is, what I'm doing is I'm setting it up so that you see how with the mark being the same size as my pin, let me get a little bit better clarity on there for you. There we go. So that lead edge is of the pin is going to pierce through at the top of the hole that I have marked there. The other thing that you can do is you can look down the jaw so that you can tell whether or not you're aligned left to right. So you always want to check two different directions. The side view, your alignment there, and then also looking down the jaw, are you aligned left to right? And so now with everything set in place, and you can see that I can let go of that blank because that lead edge is touching the surface. And then all I do is squeeze the plier enough to pierce through the metal. And you see, because of the depth or the gauge guard being set in place, there was plenty of clearance for that blank so that it wouldn't get marred. And then you just need to press it, wiggle it off just a little bit, and now you've got a hole in your piece. Okay, and so now for the bonus that I told you about. A lot of times, especially as your pin gets older, there's just a little bit of a flare that's left on the back side of the piece. And so traditionally, people would go ahead and take some emery paper or maybe even their file, and what would happen is that you rough up the whole area until it's smooth, and then you have to go through all your grits in order to make it as smooth as the rest of the piece. So I have a better method. What I do is I take a pin vise and I put, this is a round grinding burr. These are typically sold for jewelers to use in their flex shaft to grind a hole into a piece. A lot more commonly used with an advanced stone setter. So if you're new to making jewelry, you probably have no idea that these are even out there. And then, like I say, having it fitted into a pin vise, it turns that grinding burr into a hand tool. So just like with anything where we're cutting through metal, I want to have a little bit of lubricant. I want to get some lubricant onto that round burr. And using a motion very similar to like screwing in a screw with a screwdriver, you're going to align the round burr inside the hole, so it's like at the edge. So let me just mention too, this is a 1.5 millimeter hole, and this is a 3 millimeter round burr. So it's bigger than the hole. It doesn't fit in the hole. The goal is not to have it fit in the hole. The goal is to basically bevel that little flange off the edge. And look at, I can spin that clockwise, and clockwise because that's the direction that the grit on the round burr works. And I'm just spinning that in the hole, and you can see that the metal shaving is coming off, and it cleaned off any little burr that I had, or flange that I had from piercing the hole. This is such a great solution to filing and sanding because, or alternate, I should say, not a solution, but it's an alternate path, because now you've got the clean hole and it didn't mar any of the other surfaces. So I just avoided a whole lot of work by using a round burr in a pin vise. If you have questions about where you can get a pin vise and round burr and what to get and all that kind of thing, I've got plenty of information on my website, and so you can find those links in the description below the video. If you found this video informative, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. But not only that, you'll want to sign up for my emails as well. I consistently send out gems of knowledge about the art of making jewelry. I love to share my tips and tricks about how to craft with quality. You know, the tidbits they skip over in the magazines that help you improve your craftsmanship. Sign up for our emails today. In your first email, you'll get my free guide, How to Create Consistent Components with Ease Using Measuring Charts. This guide explains how I use measuring charts to craft consistent jewelry components much like a seamstress uses a pattern to make clothing. When you combine the use of measuring charts with solid forming fundamentals, you too will be crafting consistent quality components. Go to jewelryclasseswithjen.com/free-guide to sign up. You can find the link below in my description. I truly look forward to sharing the art of making jewelry with you, and you'll love being a part of our jewelry making community.